From Riverside Recovery, it's Reboot Your Life. Experience the ultimate reboot of your journey. Start anew and rediscover you. Transform your story. Rewrite your life. It's Reboot Your Life with Cary Harrison and Ashley Neal.
Cary Harrison with you, along with Riverside Recovery's Ashley Neal, and welcome to Reboot Your Life. You might remember my voice from various stations, from WFLA, where I started with Lionel and Jack and Ted Webb, and then later on to 98 Rock's morning show, and then off to CBS News Chicago, afternoon talk in New York, and weeknights in LA. Even helped start a channel on Sirius XM, rode elevators frequently with Howard Stern and Jerry Springer, both separately, of course. Imagine if they wrote it together, and took the Bay Area with me everywhere I went. Well, here we are again at home. And we're going to get to talk about things that matter to so many of us on a daily basis. As the world seems to be falling completely upside down and we find out that George Orwell was probably right after all, you and I are scratching our heads. We're saying, so now what? How do I even navigate these seemingly impossible shoals that keep popping up every day? Well, good old-fashioned coping skills, and even the buddy system, as they call it in scuba diving. We all know that launching on the journey of self-improvement it's an empowering endeavor. And now listening to a show that's going to upgrade your life with experts and life hacks and amazing tools for recovery, whether they're for you or someone you know and care about, none of us is alone anymore. Think of these Reboot Your Life broadcasts or podcasts as sort of beacons of inspiration, bringing you valuable insights and expert advice, relatable stories of human experience. Whether we're going to be delving into topics of personal development or mindfulness, recovery, addiction, or just nailing your goals, Reboot Your Life is going to provide you motivation, offering me, as we learn together real strategies to overcome the challenges and unlock each of our untapped potential. And by staying with us, you're going to join tens of thousands in a supportive community, united by the common pursuit of personal truth, of growth, happiness. Who doesn't want a calm, livable life? Who doesn't want to know the easy secrets to meet life on life's terms, especially during these crazy times? So maybe think of these as life upgrade shows, from a life that felt like baggage or coach with no legroom to at least economy plus, even business class, sooner than later. Each episode is going to become a further stepping stone toward a more fulfilling and purpose-driven existence. Maybe think of it a little bit as a university education of life's secrets without the hassle of writing checks or grueling final exams. Because many of us listening right now, whether we're on bridges or highways or driving through nature, we've already taken way too many final exams in lousy life lessons. Now you could take this free journey with thousands of your new best friends toward becoming the best version of yourself. And as you listen, you stay anonymous, taking what you want and leaving the rest. Now, why would we do this? Who would do this? Who would show up and do this? Well, Riverside Recovery of Tampa has made a commitment to the community to engage in outreach and education initiatives to raise awareness about addiction and reduce stigma, promote a culture of understanding and support, knowing that the ripple effects of recovery extend far beyond a single individual. It touches families, it touches friends, it touches the community at large. And it turns out that people who've experienced Riverside Recovery are going to tell you about their awesome transformations, because it's more than a treatment center. It's a kind of a haven for anyone seeking renewal on their journey to recovery as they rediscover their inherent worth and potential. So in a moment, you're going to meet Reboot Your Life's Ashley Neal, Director of External Affairs at Riverside Recovery of Tampa, and she works to foster positive relationships, maintain high-level relationships with both the public and the private sector, and hence this show. Ashley Neal's not only a Florida native, yay, but a person in long-term recovery, comes equipped with a degree in communications, 2 decades of experience in the nonprofit and private sector, so she actually knows about the stuff that affects and effects you and me. She's a can-do kind of person. That's the stuff that we love. Also a member of the board of directors for both the Hillsborough Recovery Coalition and Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance. Ashley Neal, it's so nice to have you launch this very first of many episodes of Reboot Your Life.
Yes, Cary, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome, and I could not even dream of a better host.
I'm going to record. I did record that. Never mind. It's great. Well, let's just jump right on into it. Ashley Neal, you're no stranger to the world of recovery, and you have such a long track record of being involved through both the county and now Riverside Recovery and helping literally thousands of people. Everybody, each one of us knows somebody who has some kind of drug and alcohol issues. It might even be painkillers. Why not? That's huge everywhere. And this is no longer some kind of whispered stigma. Ooh, don't talk about Aunt Mildred. Sorry, there she is in the middle of the living room again. So here we are today looking at something that affects almost everyone, one way or the other. Get this, according to the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics, as of 2 years ago, 40 million Americans above the age of 12 were illegal drug users, and that's within the last 30 days. So America has a total population of around 350 million people, and over half of us tend to drink alcohol in excess. 50 to 60% of teenagers have misused a drug at least once. And then there's marijuana, which is the most abused substance about I'm going to try to say that in English, and it's a tough sentence. Marijuana is the most abused substance among Americans, but it's legal, you see, in many of our largest states. So let's go, baby. Just like beer and vodka. So it's not about, is it good? Is it bad? It's about when someone is personally sick and tired, of feeling sick and tired. And we're at that point of critical mass. We can now be on the air talking about this stuff openly. And Ashley Neal, isn't this now what people are even talking about at the dinner table?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a parent and I talk to my 12-year-old about it. So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it's important. And your 12-year-old probably has a lot of friends that you're like rolling your eyes a little bit like, oh, there's Timmy. I know about Timmy.
Well, and this isn't necessarily related to abuse, but with the fentanyl crisis in the country, it is a necessary conversation to talk to adolescents and youth about the dangers of some of these things, because they're in that phase of their life where they're going to be experimenting with drugs and alcohol, and the probability of them getting their hands on something that is laced with fentanyl is at an all-time high. So that's the kind of conversation that unfortunately I have to have with my 12-year-old.
And you're talking to a 12-year-old who may not have heard of fentanyl, so you're having to tell them what fentanyl is, but fentanyl is ubiquitous, whatever that word means. In other words, it's in everything. When you buy street drugs or really a lot of stuff, for some reason, they put fentanyl in it, which is, talk about you knocking somebody out permanently because there's no right dosage, and you just never know. So it's not like, in the 1970s, people would smoke a joint knowing the pot came from the side of the railroad tracks. Today, everything is pharmaceutical and industrial grade, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, that's kind of the comparison that you can make of the medical grade marijuana versus the illicit drugs, the marijuana that you're getting from, the dealer down the street. Most likely it's laced with something, because what they're trying to do is make it so addictive that you keep coming back for more. And that's the difference really with the medical grade and what you're going to buy on the street. Something that's medical grade is not going to be laced with fentanyl, but that is the chance that you take whenever you buy from a street dealer.
Cary Harrison with you. This is Reboot Your Life with me and Ashley Neal. And we're talking in our introductory show here, just sort of the basic 411 of what's going out there in the world, stuff that used to be barely whisperable. And, people would just freak out if you mentioned it, except that it's when you drive your car, you see somebody next to you and something's up. You go to the grocery store. It's just absolutely everywhere. And it's become pandemic in a way in this country. And so one of the solutions to that is actually doing something about it. And a lot of us who might be dealing with it personally, you don't really know where to go. You don't really want to talk to somebody or admit anything. But there are workarounds and ways to feel better and reboot your life. And so even if this isn't your particular issue, it may affect you. You may just want a life upgrade and life hacks and just to function better as a human being. And so this show is for you. And that's part of the commitment. of public service that Riverside Recovery is doing. So don't feel like you have to fit into box A, B, C, D, slot, or tab, L, M, N, O, P. It doesn't matter. This is a large tent, and we're all humans, and we're all trying to upgrade. And Ashley Neal, you work with the county, you work with so many thousands of people, you work with businesses and cultures. Is it just like people with not much money that deal with this stuff, or does it affect everybody?
Absolutely. It affects everyone. And not only does it affect the person who's using a substance, it affects their loved ones, their coworkers, and their neighbors, because they are cared about by other people. And that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about it's not just something that affects Aunt Mildred anymore. This potentially is affecting the people that you see every day at your job. So, there are many people in this country who are employed, and that would lead you to believe that people that are employed also are part of the people who are using drugs, since we know there are so many people in the country using drugs. So, no, this is not just something that is affecting the homeless population or, the junkie, to use a bad term, that we see that lives under a bridge, or someone that you see begging on the corner. This affects people from all walks of life. There's definitely no discrimination with this disease.
Coming up, we're going to be talking to a doctor who is a former ER doc who saw it all and is now working in the recovery business because he realized there was more that he could do than in the emergency room. Emergency rooms aren't geared up to handle long-term stuff. They're handled to stabilize and on to the next one, because they're coming in droves. So we're going to be talking to him in a minute. And thank you, Ashley Neal, for hooking that up. Just a quick thought. I had my father would tell me stories about his great aunt, and she kept a big jug of gin up on the mantelpiece, which ended up empty every day, and she would refill it. And she was trying to cure it like you would cure a ham. Like, it gets better if it sits, but the problem is it didn't sit more than 24 hours. So they would send her off twice a year they didn't call it a dry out. It was like a spa somewhere. And so she had her spa treatments twice a year, and then would come back, and it just went on forever. And back then people didn't really understand it. You just sent them away for a spa treatment. Fresh air, that's what's been missing. Mm-hmm. It's this polluted air in the middle of the woods. I mean, it's so insane.
Yoga retreat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's do this. Let's pause for a quick second. When we return, we're going to talk to a doctor, and we're going to find out what it's like actually in the ER, because you think that everyone is in there having heart attacks. Sure, that does happen too, but there's way more.
Hang on, your reboot reboots in a moment.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
800-380-4194. 800-380-4194. That's 800-380-4194.
Are you familiar with Riverside Recovery of Tampa? Well, they offer a profound, all-embracing approach to addiction treatment. With a dedicated team of empathetic professionals, Riverside Recovery is committed to guiding individuals on their path to enduring recovery, using a variety of science-backed therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery values the individuality of every recovery journey. Their tailored treatment plans respond to the specific needs, the hurdles, and goals of each resident, providing effective aid regardless of whether you're taking your first steps in recovery or maintaining your progress. With Riverside, recovery isn't just achievable, it's an influential journey towards a healthier, brighter future. The testimonials of those who've undergone treatment there are evidence of rediscovered self-worth and potential. Located on the tranquil Hillsborough River of Tampa, Riverside serves as a peaceful haven, promoting self-discovery and healing. They acknowledge that recovery is about more than just overcoming difficulties. It's also about finding your innate strength and resilience. The Riverside Recovery's committed team are your empathic allies in your recovery journey. They comprehend that genuine healing involves the mind, body, and spirit, meticulously dealing with all facets of addiction. Riverside Recovery is your haven, providing a continuous stream of hope, nourishing the seeds of long-standing change and rejuvenation. Discover more at rrtampa.com or reach out at 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440.
Life 2.0. It's your life and your reboot. It's Reboot Your Life with Cary Harrison and Ashley Neal.
Cary Harrison with you, along with Riverside Recovery's Ashley Neal, and welcome to Reboot Your Life, a new series of life upgrade shows with solutions and life hacks, evidence, and science-based looks into addiction, psychology, personal growth, and self-esteem. Reboot Your Life is devoted, well, how do you like this? To you! When was the last time radio devoted anything to you? Well, it's devoted to you and you becoming the best version of yourself. Ashley Neal, we have a medical doctor teed up who has a real expertise in addiction and recovery, an ER doc. Can you tell us a little bit about Dr. Michael Soar?
Absolutely. I would love to. Dr. Michael Soar is the medical director of Riverside Recovery of Tampa. He's been working in emergency medicine for over 35 years, and he has seen firsthand the devastation caused by addiction. As an ER doctor, the life-saving emergency care that he provided rarely resulted in any meaningful recovery, leading him to develop a passion early in his career for trying to improve recovery outcomes. Dr. Soar has been leading the team at Riverside Recovery for over 5 years, making a meaningful difference in the lives of people and their families facing addiction. His technique: he provides an exceptional level of care in a safe, effective manner and recognizes that these key components statistically have been proven to lead to higher likelihood of long-term recovery. Dr. Soar is a local. He attended the University of South Florida.
Me too, by the way.
Where he earned his medical degree and is equally board certified in addiction medicine. And we snatched him from a medical conference, and he's here with us today. So, Dr. Soar, welcome to Reboot Your Life.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here. And though you went to USF and became a doctor, I went to USF and became an English major. One of us has skill sets that seem to actually matter, and it's probably not me. But we're so glad you are here today, because we were just talking, Ashley and I, earlier about how many of us, millions of us, are affected or effected by what's going on. And, you know, before people couldn't really talk about it, people couldn't identify it. But we want to go into the ER with you and sort of understand, what does it look like when you add in drugs and alcohol and the amount of people that come roaring through there?
It looks like, unfortunately, an everyday occurrence in the emergency department. It was estimated in 2022 that almost 8 million visits to the emergency department were due to substance use. Not necessarily addiction or substance use disorders, but there were, 8 million visits were related to some type of substance use. So it's very common. Every single ER doc sees patients on a daily basis for either the substance use itself or injuries or trauma that are related to being impaired. And unfortunately, as I say, it is just a daily occurrence.
You know, Dr. Michael Soar, we all watch TV, we all watch Netflix, we sometimes even watch the old-fashioned networks. It could happen for some people. And in there, emergency rooms are all the same. People come in with heart attacks, and then they come in with heart attacks, maybe gunshots, but heart attacks, etc. And like, there's never any what you're talking about, which is from every ER nurse and doctor I've ever talked to, that's like the balance of a Saturday night. It's like gunshots, but from too much drinking or whatever. It's like a whole wild zoo that's invisible to the public in many ways.
Yeah, I don't think people really get a great sense of, unless you watch some of the shows that where they're actually doing live, video, following along a doc in the ER. You don't get a true sense of what it really is like in the emergency department. And again, unfortunately, we see on a daily basis the impact that substance use disorders have, or just even someone that doesn't necessarily have a use disorder, but just uses too much alcohol or does some cocaine, does some meth. It's just a one-time thing, and usually they don't have good outcomes, unfortunately.
And so having seen this rinse and repeat over and over again, and knowing that really in the ER, you stabilize people, it's not a long-term hotel experience where you can really really invest in them. I mean, you've got, let's just say, other people waiting for 4 hours to get in, and it's triage and emergency. So there's just not a ton of repair you can do except stabilize. But you realize, wait a minute, I'm seeing so much of this. I know there's more that can be done. So tell us about that transformation.
Sure, and you're right. We typically don't have much time to deal with a lot of the social issues that occur that bring about substance use disorders, and we certainly don't have time to try to place people into treatment. A lot of times, what we do is, if we're lucky, we get a few minutes to try and do damage control, or what another term for it is harm reduction, trying to give people information that they need to be able to seek treatment. Most of the time when people are coming to the emergency department, they're not at that point. They're not coming to the ER because they want to get treatment for their substance use disorder. They're coming because of a consequence of their substance use disorder. But we can try to use that as at least a springboard to getting them into treatment, or at least starting to think about it, or letting their friends or family know, hey, your friend or your loved one's got some troubles, and here's some steps you can take to try to get them pointed in the right direction.
Cary Harrison with you. This is Reboot Your Life, along with the great Ashley Neal, who's brought us Dr. Michael Soar, medical director at Riverside Recovery of Tampa, who's been working in emergency medicine for over 35 years. Boy, has he seen it firsthand, the devastation caused by addiction and more. And as an ER doc, the life-saving emergency care that he's talking about wasn't built to result in long-term meaningful recovery. That's not what you're in the ER to do. So I thought, I want to develop a passion. I want to turn this into something where we can help thousands of people that do have backstories when they come into the ER. It presents, but we can actually go and do something with it. And I know, Ashley, you had a question for Dr. Soar about language, because I heard terms he was using earlier that sound new to me.
Yes. So if you're remotely familiar with the terms of substance abuse, addiction, I used a term earlier, junkie, these are some outdated terms, and there are new terms that are being used within the clinical environment. The term now is substance use disorder. Can you talk a little bit, Dr. Soar, about what motivated the shift in language from words like substance abuse to substance use disorder?
Sure. I think what really started to what really brought about this change in language was the stigma that tends to be associated when you say that someone's an addict or they're abusing substances, because it makes it seem like they have a choice. And while certainly someone does initially have a choice when they first pick up a substance or first try a substance or they're experimenting, once a person starts to use a substance more frequently and develops a substance use disorder, there really is no longer a choice for them. And using the language of substance use disorder helps to reduce the stigma and the shame that's associated with substance use disorders. And it also is helpful for the medical treatment because we can focus on treating a disorder, not a condition that a lot of people have a sense of shame about and won't seek treatment because of that sense of shame.
And does there seem to be an increase in people that are seeking help because of the language change? Have you seen that?
I think there is an increase, certainly in the recovery world. Not so much in the emergency department, but there is a change in the emergency department that I've noticed in the last few years of medical providers being much more aware, have a much better understanding that these folks that are coming to us for help do truly have a disorder. They have it's not unlike having a chronic disease, and that's really the way we try to treat a substance use disorder is treat it like any chronic disease. People will have times where they are doing well, but then they may also have a time where they relapse, just like with diabetes or heart failure, no different with substance use disorders.
There's some new data that just came out that there are actually 48 million Americans who experience a substance use disorder in 2022. And when that data was released, that prompted the Biden-Harris administration to reiterate their earlier calls for Congress to really start providing more critical additional resources to strengthen addiction treatment and also crack down on some of the drug trafficking that's happening. What role do you think language plays in shaping these policies and these public health initiatives?
Well, I think, unfortunately, in the past, the language that was used was kind of blaming and accusatory, and that really doesn't help anyone. It makes it very easy for medical professionals to kind of turn their back or on some of these folks that really do need a lot of help. With change in language comes change in attitudes, better acceptance, better understanding, and I think just overall better treatment for folks that do have substance use disorders. And they need a lot of help. There's no doubt about it. And I think that change in language is a very beneficial thing.
I agree. Thank you.
We're talking to Dr. Michael Soar. He is a ER doc who realized that the good work he was doing in there while saving many, many lives that come into the ER, but the ER was not built to do anything long term, just stabilize. And so he created and crafted a plan which does actually deal and address with this, also looks at the language that you and I face. If you feel insulted before you even walk through a door, you're just not going to walk through that door. And so understanding how people actually work, like we're live human beings, imagine that, with feelings. Yes. And that if the doors are smiling, well, you're likely to walk through and know that you can have companionable care as opposed to be looked at as an object that just needs to be tightened and tweaked. And so there is this idea, Dr. Michael Soar, about it being a medical condition and not just somebody being like just a twisted personality. I think we're getting down to the fact that it's a scientific medical condition and not just Timmy is a mean person.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This is not, a failure. Having a substance use disorder is not a failure of someone's character, not because they don't have good morals or good ethics. It really is a chemical change and a change in the pathways of the brain, the way the brain functions, that are brought on by substances of abuse. And these substances have, they all tend to work on the dopamine pathway in our brain, which is a reward pathway. And what tends to happen is over time, those substances cause massive releases of dopamine that do physically alter the brain and the way the brain functions. And it is not unlike folks that have a stroke where their brain function develops impairment secondary to the stroke. Well, your brain develops impairment secondary to the use of these substances that cause massive amounts of dopamine release. And so it's a long, just like with stroke management, it's a long path that stroke survivors have to undergo in order to try to gain some improvement in their level of functioning. So too for folks with substance use disorder, is it a long path and it requires special treatment. And that's what we aim to do at Riverside Recovery, get people in the door, get them detoxed, keep them very comfortable, take away any shame, any stigma that they may feel, explain to them that it's not a moral failing, explain to their families that this isn't really something that they were choosing to do. And once people have an understanding that this truly is a disease process, it makes it a lot easier to both have the patient themselves accept care, and their families can be a lot more supportive and far less blaming of the person.
And Dr. Michael Soar, I think there's kind of a silver lining here. The silver lining being in the solution or the treatment that you're talking about is that the brain is actually capable, and I'm just going to use clumsy, pedestrian language here, but the brain is actually capable of sort of rewiring itself back into a more normal state. So it's not like somebody just is going without and they just, heck, you got to get used to it. Just get used to it for the rest. That's not what you're doing. You're just kind of showing the brain how to work right again. And then people start to feel better.
Yeah, and it does take time. There's no doubt about it. It does take time. And people, unfortunately, a normal part of this disease process is the potential for relapsing. But it doesn't mean it's a failure of their recovery. It just is something that we do expect to happen from time to time. But it can happen with less frequency. The further away from the substance use you get, the less likely you are to have a relapse, and you can definitely see improvements in the person's level of functioning, in their relationships, their family life. They're able to hold down jobs, enjoy normal activities that bring about a lot of self-fulfillment and happiness. And that's really what it's all about.
Cary Harrison with you, along with Riverside Recovery's Ashley Neal. This is Reboot Your Life. You can go to rrtampa.com to learn more about everything we're talking about, rrtampa.com. And we're talking right now to Dr. Michael Soar, Medical Director at Riverside Recovery of Tampa, who's been working in emergency medicine for over 35 years. And crafted this wonderful recovery plan that allows people to actually get well using medicine and science, and where we understand this is actually a medical condition. Much like a heart attack, some people can relapse on drugs and alcohol, but some people can have a second heart attack, or a third, or a fourth. 28 angioplasties, as one guy I know. I said, 28? Yep, 28. It just kind of happens in life. So the idea is to actually make it easier for people to be who they want to be and who's sort of trapped in there. And I think that's something you see also, Dr. Soar, is that there's like really good people trapped in there that maybe the poor guy suffering or poor woman suffering hasn't met in quite a while.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, substances don't care who you are. They don't care what you do for a living. They don't care how much money you make. They do one thing, and that's lead everyone to misery, unfortunately. And the bottom line is that we need to treat this like a disease because that's what it is. And with effective treatment and with a commitment from the person to wanting to get better, it definitely can. It can happen. It just does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of supportive staff, which I'm very fortunate to work with wonderful people that share the same vision. And it's definitely something that's needed, because it's not just the person with the substance use disorder that suffers. It's their family and friends, their loved ones. Everyone gets impacted by it.
Well, very much appreciate you coming on, Dr. Sworn. Thank you for jumping out of your medical conference. I know this is part of your life, is sharing what you've learned and sharing it with others who know things too. And so you're always upping your game, like playing golf over and over again till you get really good. And you are really good, which is why you're here. So we really appreciate spending time with you and learning about this and letting people know that there is a way through and a way out, and you don't have to just sit and suffer or die, as some people do, that there are options here. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a pause. When we return, Ashley Neal and I are going to talk a little bit about some personal stuff about ourselves, what we know about this, and why we think it's so cool, rebooting our lives and your lives.
Hang on, your reboot reboots in a moment.
Introducing the Reboot Your Life hotline. We've set up a dedicated phone number so that you can leave your comments, questions, or even a piece of your own life story whenever you feel like it. Feedback matters, and we know you may have something you want to get off your chest. You can call or text our Reboot Your Life hotline at 737-808-CHAT. That's 737-808-CHAT or 737-808-2428. 737-808-2428. 737-808-CHAT.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping the self-employed and people just like you that need affordable health insurance to get it. We have short and long-term health insurance plans, and some even cover dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your family's health insurance. It's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-478-4170. 800-478-4170. 800-478-4170. That's 800-478-4170.
Did you know Riverside Recovery of Tampa embodies a holistic approach to addiction treatment? With a team of compassionate professionals dedicated to guiding individuals toward lasting recovery, Riverside Recovery provides a comprehensive range of evidence-based therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery understands that every person's journey is unique. Their personalized treatment plans are crafted with care, addressing the individual needs, challenges, and aspirations of each resident. Whether someone is navigating the early stages of recovery or seeking ongoing support, Riverside Recovery stands as a steadfast partner on the path to wellness. At Riverside, recovery is not only possible, but also a transformative journey toward a brighter, healthier future. Ask folks who've been there, people who have rediscovered their inherent worth and potential. In the serene surroundings of Tampa, Riverside is a peaceful retreat of tranquility conducive to self-reflection and healing. Riverside Recovery believes that the journey to recovery is not just about overcoming challenges, but also about discovering your own inner strength and resilience. The dedicated staff at Riverside Recovery are your compassionate companions on the road to recovery, and they recognize that true healing encompasses the mind, body, and spirit, all while comfortably addressing the many aspects of addiction. For those seeking a sanctuary of recovery in Tampa, Riverside Recovery is a place where the river of hope flows steadily, nurturing the roots of lasting change and revitalization. You can learn more at rrtampa.com. That's rrtampa.com, or call 1-800-871-5440. 800-871-5440. 800-871-5440.
Life 2.0. It's your life and your reboot. It's Reboot Your Life with Cary Harrison and Ashley Neal.
Cary Harrison with you, and this is Reboot Your Life, along with the great Ashley Neal. Let me just remind you who Ashley Neal is. She is wonderful. She's a local from Florida, from here, knows everything about the Bay Area and beyond. She's currently Director of External Affairs at Riverside Recovery of Tampa, and she supports its overall growth by fostering positive relationships in both the public and the private sector. That means wherever it is, whatever it is, she's there trying to make it better. Not only a Florida native, as I mentioned, but a person in long-term recovery with 2 decades of experience in the nonprofit and private sector. Also a member of the board of directors for both the Hillsborough Recovery Coalition and the Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance. So if you have kids, thank her quietly in your own special way. Cary Harrison with you. You probably remember my voice for many years, whether it's WFLA 93.3, formerly known as the Power Pig once upon a time, WMNF, 98 Rock, been all over the place, Channel 44 for a while, did a lot of cool stuff, and then ended up being pulled up to Chicago for CBS News. They were actually grooming me to be the new young Paul Harvey at the time. And then Paul didn't die. Well, stuff happens. But I ended up doing something else that was really cool, going into syndication, starting a channel on Sirius XM, doing afternoons in New York City, then ending up in Los Angeles and helping start up yet another network and doing cool shows, and happily back home and doing this cool exploratory radio where we're actually talking about stuff that people don't talk about. But we're talking about it here right now in the open, drive time, as you're in your car on bridges and freeways everywhere going, I relate to that. Yep, I'd like to have a better life. And so that's why we're doing Reboot Your Life. And Ashley, you have some years in recovery. So obviously, maybe your life wasn't as perfect as you wished it was once upon a time.
It absolutely was not. And, I was thinking about some of the things we were talking about earlier, just the demographics that I think people think that people who use substances are in a particular class of people, or they're affected by, particular things happening in the world. And that's just not the case. And I think when people meet me and know me now, they're surprised to hear that I use substances at a time in my life to cope. And I think that myself and many of the other people that I know that are in recovery are great examples of, really breaking down those preconceived notions about what someone who uses drugs or alcohol looks like or where they come from. And I'm glad to be able to do that.
And have you ever watched the old movies, Ashley, Fred Astaire, not that you maybe know that name so well, but black and white movies, from the 1930s. I've seen a few. And, they're in black tie or white tie and tails and silk opera hats, chain smoking and quaffing martinis. And that's just on a Tuesday. And that was normal. Every time there was a show called Bewitched, which is still in rerun. You've seen that. Mm-hmm. And every episode, somebody walks in a room. Hey, Sam, want to have a drink? Darren walks into Larry Tate's office. There's a full bar in the guy's office at 2 p.m. Normal living for so many. Mm-hmm. And, that's just part of our culture. And so it's run away to the point where now it really has to be fixed. And the statistics you were pointing out earlier, the ones I pointed out were horrifying. Mm-hmm. You just pointed out that they've been updated by 2 years. And we're talking, did you say 46
48.
48 million people. Yeah. And those are the ones we know about.
Yes. And I think another interesting statistic that I saw was that alcohol use disorder is the 4th leading preventable cause of death in this country.
Yeah. And one of the things that alcohol does is it metabolizes as sugar.
Yes.
So if you're over drinking, or as my mother used to say, being overserved, mm-hmm. Is that brilliant? She was just overserved. That's why she fell down in her mashed potatoes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That with too much, you can develop diabetes very easily because the volume of sugar bursting through your body it causes all of these different conditions. My father died of acute alcoholism right in front of my eyes at the age of 52.
Wow.
The average age of an alcoholic is now 53, obviously much better nutrition. I'm being sarcastic, but I mean, 52 is like super young, but he was like, he had full cirrhosis of the liver and polyneuropathy of the arms and legs and snow white hair at 52, and told people it was old age because he looked 80. And 80 looks good today, by the way. This is some years ago. Mm-hmm. And this was just kind of like the normal plight, is that the body can't take it. It can take it for some time, but then you kind of cross this line and you can't stop. And you don't even know that you can recover. And you don't even know about it, or maybe you don't think it's possible. But we're finding out today that there's a catcher's mitt for these kinds of problems. And it's not a painful route. It's like at Riverside, you guys, I mean, the food is good. You're on the side of a river. It's like pleasant and clean and bright and sunny and fun.
Yes.
Like, okay, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a great environment to recover in. And, you know, that makes me think about some of the dark places that people go to when they are using drugs and alcohol to, you know, drown their sorrows, cope with, you know, life, or maybe they don't think that they're drinking after work at happy hour with coworkers because there's anything going on. They're just, you know, going to happy hour. Some of the places that we can go to is dark, and some of the places that we can be led are not necessarily the place you want to be hanging out, you know, at midnight on a Tuesday. And being able to recover at a place like Riverside just really shines a whole new light, I think, on the disease and all of the things that come along with it. It doesn't have to be such a dark experience. There can be joy in it.
I'm so glad we got to do this today. And just think in upcoming episodes, we're going to be able to, we'll take some live call-ins. We'll allow people to talk about their own stuff. And you're going to hear how your neighbors deal with stuff, or how stuff has been dealing with them. Because if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you one way or the other. And just kind of how the human condition works. Each time all of us learns a new upgrade, a new skill set, a toolkit that we get to keep for the rest of our lives. And that's kind of the plot of the play. So thank you so much, Ashley Neal, Cary Harrison with you. This is Reboot Your Life. You know, we covered some of the indicators which may point to someone possibly needing treatment for alcohol or drug issues. Substance misuse, whether it's drugs or alcohol, is not just a habit or a choice. It becomes an all-consuming need. It traps individuals in a cycle of dependency, which is a chronic disease that affects the brain and behavior. And more often than not, these substances change the way our brains work, leading people down a path of addiction. This can result in dire consequences on your own health or personal relationships. It can affect your work, your profession, your ability to live a fulfilling and independent life. But you see, there is hope, and this is what we've been hearing. Many individuals have stepped out of this vicious cycle into recovery, and it all begins with understanding the need for treatment. Treatment empowers individuals by providing them with the tools and the strategies necessary to maintain long-term sobriety. And one of the hallmarks of substance misuse or overuse, call it whatever you want, is prioritization. What does that mean? Well, the use of alcohol or drugs takes precedence over personal responsibilities such as work, family, and health. It could be an indication of a significant issue. And watching out for activities being dropped in favor of substance abuse, that's key. Noticeable changes in behavior are another warning sign. This could include secretive actions and frequent mood changes or unusual bursts of energy or lethargy. If these changes link to substance use, then it's time to evaluate if treatment is necessary. Tolerance towards alcohol or drugs may be another warning sign of a substance use problem. Over time, individuals may need more of the substance to achieve the same effects, which can lead to dangerous physical and mental health consequences. Lastly, prolonged substance use can lead to withdrawal symptoms such as headaches and trembling and nausea. And when the individual stops using the substance, this is when that happens. And it's a clear indication that professional treatment may be necessary. Recognizing these signs is the first step towards seeking help. And it's important to remember that reaching out for assistance is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous step toward wellness. So if you or a loved one are exhibiting any of these signs, consider seeking out professional help. Remember, if you're dealing with these issues, you're not alone. Millions are fighting the same battle, and there are countless resources and professionals whose sole mission is to help you recover and thrive. There is always aid, there is always hope, and there's always a choice to recover. You see, this is a conversation that we certainly need to keep having, because understanding why someone might need treatment for drug and alcohol issues is the first step in the right direction. And remember, it's never too late to seek help. That's why Riverside Recovery of Tampa is proud to put real solutions into the community and share many of the discoveries and successes as part of its education initiative. Positive community impact is the name of the game here. And determining if you or a loved one might need help can be a crucial first step on the path to recovery. Remember, you are not alone, and treatment is available. I'm Cary Harrison along with Ashley Neal, and we look forward to seeing you next week at this time. If you're hearing this on a regular radio station, we hope it touches you wherever you are. If you're catching this as a podcast on any of the major platforms, from Spotify to Apple, iHeart to Amazon Alexa, or even Audible as an audiobook, we hope you'll remember this as a valuable resource, whether it's for you or someone you know, so that they can reboot their life.
Learn more at rrtampa.com. Reboot your life today.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Call 800-281-7048. 800-281-7048. That's 800-281-7048.
Are you familiar with Riverside Recovery of Tampa? Well, they offer a profound, all-embracing approach to addiction treatment. With a dedicated team of empathetic professionals, Riverside Recovery is committed to guiding individuals on their path to enduring recovery, using a variety of science-backed therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery values the individuality of every recovery journey. Their tailored treatment plans respond to the specific needs, the hurdles, and goals of each resident, providing effective aid regardless of whether you're taking your first steps in recovery or maintaining your progress. With Riverside, recovery isn't just achievable, it's an influential journey towards a healthier, brighter future. The testimonials of those who've undergone treatment there are evidence of rediscovered self-worth and potential. Located on the tranquil Hillsborough River of Tampa, Riverside serves as a peaceful haven, promoting self-discovery and healing. They acknowledge that recovery is about more than just overcoming difficulties. It's also about finding your innate strength and resilience. The Riverside Recovery's committed team are your empathic allies in your recovery journey. They comprehend that genuine healing involves the mind, body, and spirit, meticulously dealing with all facets of addiction. Riverside Recovery is your haven, providing a continuous stream of hope, nourishing the seeds of long-standing change and rejuvenation. Discover more at rrtampa.com or reach out at 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440.